Yes, bonsoir. Welcome back to South Africa tonight. The United Rugby Champion Championship will have an all-South African final taking place in Cape Town between the Stormers and Bulls at the weekend. This follows a pulsating semi-final clash that saw the Stormers beat Ulster dramatically. They will face the Bulls, who showed grit to deny Leinster in their own backyard. Well, to look ahead of the final, we are joined by former Stormers and Springbok player Dave van Hoesslin. A very good evening, Mr. Dave. Great to be chatting to you. I was hoping not to butcher your surname right at the top of that obviously that introduction, but great to have you here. We're talking URC final. Super excited that it's an all South African final. A last-minute winner from the Stormers, especially against Ulster. I mean, I thought all hope was lost. How do you describe, or how do you best describe the character that the Stormers put on display?
Well, Arthur, yeah, firstly, thank you for having me. Yeah, fantastic. Let's be honest. They've got a number of game breakers in the team, and that's kind of what you need in big games. You know, in the last 10 minutes, they had a red card, and you felt all hope was lost. And then for them to pull off the win, they suddenly came out of their shells in that last 10 minutes and actually started to play a bit of rugby. You know, they hadn't been clinical, they hadn't been decisive in the build-up to that last 10 minutes. You know, and they were kind of lucky to still be within grasp. And then that last 10 minutes, they actually came out and needed to play and did so. I mean,
you say that. Jake White this week spoke about the Bulls' potential and the championship mentality that they put on, especially in finals, which I think is very important. And what they pulled off in Ireland, being the first South African team to beat an Irish team in Ireland, was really great. Do you think that's going to play out on Saturday against the Stormers, especially because the Stormers at home are a different beast?
Yes, they are. But I think if you look at the way the Bulls played in the beginning of the competition, and they actually got taught a lesson, I think, by Leinster right in the beginning. And Jake White said that the team at the end of the competition will be a very different team. And he's proven so. You know, and they came through and they beat Leinster in their own backyard, something no South African team has ever done. And they're a very clinical side. They're very different. They don't have a lot of superstars. They're led very well by Marcel Coetzee, who leads from the front. You know, they've got Johan Grobelaar, who was unlucky not to make the Springbok team, but has just been fantastic up front at hooker. But they do what they do best. They're good in the set pieces, and they're good in the contact points. And they bullied Leinster into beating them.
So it's going to be a physical game then on Saturday. I'm expecting a physical game. But before we get into that, I mean, the tactical battle between John Dobson and Jake White, talk me through that.
Well, they're two quite different characters. You know, Jake White's been on the big stage, won a World Cup. You know, Dobbo has been, he's been an integral character, but mainly in Cape Town. You know, and so there might be a bit of niggle, there might be a bit of underplay, and I think they've both been saying that they're grateful to have got to where they've got, but they want more, obviously, and so that's going to play out. You know, that's going to play out in the final. The Stormers, like you say, at home are just a different beast, and if their cogs kind of click into place on the weekend, they could be a very difficult team to beat. It's possibly going to be raining. That could favour the Bulls in the way they play the game, but the Stormers, if they have a couple of their guys, their superstars, click into gear, you never know in a final.
Dave, let's talk about local rugby's evolution, especially how important it is for, South African franchises getting experience to play in the Northern Hemisphere. What do you make of that?
I think it's fantastic. Like we've always been playing this Southern Hemisphere, across time zone kind of rugby. It makes it's a really big challenge to travel across time zones like you do. Not saying that it's a lot easier having to travel to the Northern Hemisphere, but it's a different challenge, and it's good for rugby, and it's good for the South African teams to be able to show, that we in South Africa, we don't have the budgets that these Northern Hemisphere teams have. We just don't. A player makes his name in South Africa and moves to a Leinster, moves to an Ulster, moves to the Northern Hemisphere for the paycheck. And to show that we've got the depth that we do, to be able to bring players through the system and still beat the Northern Hemisphere teams with the big paychecks and big bank balances, is an incredible feather in our cap.
All right. Can the Bulls silence another home crowd in Cape Town?
I think we know they can. We know it's a final. We know that the weather will play a big part, and it's a final, and they play finals rugby, and Jake White is phenomenal in that aspect. The Stormers, they haven't, their playmakers, their Herschel and Marnie Libok were not fantastic this week, but maybe they've played their bad game. Let's hope they've played their bad game. I want to see a spectacle, and I want to see the Stormers kick into high gear, and I want to hopefully see, whichever way it goes, it doesn't matter. We've got two South African teams in the final. Yes, I played for the Stormers. I didn't play for the Bulls, but I'm not concerned as to who actually wins it. Yes. I just want a spectacle.
Great. Final question. How do you see the national team performing this season? Springbok head coach Jacques Nienaber has named a 43-man squad. The bulk of those players are Stormers and Bulls players as well. Who stood out for you this season?
I mean, listen, to name, players, I mean, let's just rather be fair to the squad of players and say that, we've got incredible depth at the moment. We really do. I think that, Jacques Nienaber, has the luxury of being able to call on, some incredible talent that has come through the ranks. But, I mean, if we look at just Ivan Rus, just to start, I think he's got an incredible opportunity, especially with Dwayne being out. I think that he's got an opportunity. I'm not necessarily saying that he will start a match. I think that, you've got guys like Dion Fourie that have been on the fringes. He's been brought back into the Springbok fold. He might get a chance at 8. But a guy like Ivan Rus, everyone's been talking about him. Hopefully the guy gets an opportunity just to be able to show his skill.
Fantastic, Dave. Great talking to you. Rugby and the URC final. Dave van Hoesslin, of course, just given us a preview to what we can expect in Cape Town between the Stormers and the Bulls. All right, that's all the sports news I have for you.